Hey, welcome back. And what am I doing hiding behind these boxes? Well, we're going to go over them a little bit. Today we're going to talk about cereal. Cereals. This is what we call cereals, but you know, cereal, the actual word means any grass that's cultivated for its grain. And that's pretty much what these are, grasses that are cultivated for their grain. And when we talk about grains, there's really only one way to eat grains, and that is ferment them. So there's so much to talk about relative to what these so-called cereals are that it's going to take more than one video, but I want to touch on a few things basically right now. We're going to run through these. You probably heard the slogans, "They're great," or "I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs." You know, all this stuff's marketed to kids with these bright colors. Oh, Lucky Charms. And then also this, tricks are for kids. But let's see, are they really for kids? Let's take a look at what's in these. Now we know right off the bat, none of them are fermented. And the reason why you want the grains to be fermented is because most all of them have gluten in them. Now, of course, rice doesn't, but even if it doesn't have gluten in there and it's not fermented, these companies, first off, are not putting vitamins into the food out of the goodness of their heart. Those things are expensive for them to buy and put in. The reason why they do it, if you ever see vitamins or enriched, like on this pack, we got vitamins and minerals, calcium carbonate, tricalcium phosphate, vitamin C, so on and so forth. The reason why they're in there is because the government requires it by law when they have denatured the original grain to the extent that it's considered a non-food. So they're required to turn it back into a food or have some sort of nourishment. Now what happens is they sell off the good vitamins to other industries and they're left with nothing, or they put it through a process that just denatures it and completely breaks it down. So I'm going to start as we go through this series and talk a little bit about everything that's in these. And it's not just one thing or two things or three things. It's basically just a smorgasbord, fancy word, of non-health items, put it that way, that really will destroy your health. And in the first meal of the day, it's not what you want. If we're talking about cereals and we want grains that are healthy, there's only one way to do that, and that is to make what's called sourdough. The reason why it's called sourdough is because it ferments, and the grain ferments, and that's called sour. But sauerkraut's the same thing. It preserves the cabbage. Sourdough preserves the wheat or the flour. And cheese, wines, everything were originally made like that, but no longer. They're not made like that in modern times. So let's just take a few quick looks at these. We know that if it has vitamins in there, that they've already denatured what the main substance is. So this substance is whole grain oats. And now below we see the vitamins, so we know that their processing has taken all the vitamins out, and that's why they have to add them back. We have sugar, which obviously is not good for someone who is can't have white sugar, which really is all of us, because white sugar actually completely weakens your immune system immediately. These are all studies and tests that you can look up, and it would take quite a bit of time to go through each and every one of them, but I just want to touch on each thing right now. We have cornstarch, modified cornstarch, corn syrup, which is shown to not be good, and 2% or more of salt, gelatin, trisodium phosphate, which is used in cleaners, industrial strength cleaners, red number 40, which is known to cause cancer, yellow 5 and 6, blue 1, which all have been shown to cause diseases and cancers, natural and artificial flavor, all artificial flavor is toxic, vitamin E, and added to preserve freshness. So that's quite a few things that are extremely unhealthy right in this. And what they do is they put these grains through such a process of breaking them down so they can press them into shapes. And when that happens, it's basically a non-food. Now, the famous Cheerios, we got whole grain oats again, tripotassium phosphate, Same thing, used in industrial cleaners. It is extremely not good for you. You can do any search on that you want to. And all the vitamins and minerals that are added. Since tricks are for kids, let's take a quick look at that. Whole grain corn, but we have the vitamins, so we know that corn has been denatured. Sugar, rice flour, corn syrup, canola, and sunflower oil. And the reason why so many of these oils are so unhealthy is because they're processed at such a high heat that it completely denatures the oils. Canola oil is actually originally rapeseed, which is a plant that cannot be eaten by humans until it's chemically altered. And they didn't really, I think, like the name. So up in Canada, they trademarked that name or made that name and called it CAN, as for Canada, canola oil instead of rapeseed. And in many of these products, well, I'm going to touch on this also, they still will have 2% of things that have been completely outlawed, because if it's 2% or less, they can put it in. So they always make sure to get their 2% and get it in there so they can save money. Even though they can say on the package, for instance, hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oil, which has been banned, they can still put 2% in there and say they have 0. So these are things you need to know. It's buyer beware. That's why all this stuff's required to be put on here, but you just can't walk in there and eat whatever you want in the grocery store. You really need to know this, and I know it's like a maze working through it, so that's why I'm trying to help and bring some of this to your attention. Like I said, I can go through every single study on every one of these, but I'm just quickly touching on this. The main thing to remember is if it has vitamins in there, they've already denatured it to the extent that it's not nutritious. So the vitamins that they're putting back, what source is it coming from? Sources that you wouldn't believe that vitamins can actually be derived from, like petroleum for the B vitamins. Eating petroleum is not going to be the same energy and the same nutrition of the B vitamins that God put in the grain naturally. So just the notion that you could actually create food, which is impossible. It has to come from nature. But what they're doing is they're meeting laws or fulfilling the law that is required of them to be able to put this on the shelf in a bright package. And of course, the bright packages are shown to attract kids in a much higher level, and others too, but especially kids. And so we got cartoons, and then what do we have in good old Apple Jacks? We got corn flour blend, sugar, of course all the vitamins, so that speaks for itself, that was necessary to put that in. And then we have all the 2%, which they're allowed by law to put in. And we have 2% or less of vegetable oil, which is hydrogenated coconut, soybean, and or cottonseed oil, which is a very cheap oil that's been banned because it's so horrible for you. It's been banned all over the world, but they still put the 2% in here because they're allowed to, because if they put 2% or less, they can claim that they have 0 grams of hydrogenated oil, and that's just the way it is. So you definitely want to know that and stay away from it. And then we also have wheat starch, baking soda, yellow 5, red 40 causes cancer in animals. So I don't know why you'd want to put this into your kid. Special K. So there we go. Now we got the healthy cereal, or do we? Let's take a look. Special K, rice with vitamins. That right there already speaks. Now, many people would say that, okay, they're putting vitamins in there, it's going to be even healthier. Again, that's a big cost to them. When you grind the grain naturally, you don't have to add any vitamins to it. All the God-given vitamins and nutrition are in it. The only reason they're putting it in there is because they're required to, because they've already turned the substance into a non-food. And so they have to create it back into what's defined as food or have some nutritional value. So they put things that will pass for nutrition in there. The sources are not what the sources you would want. But here we go, wheat gluten. They actually put rice and they actually put wheat gluten in here. So people would think on the front that we got, rice cereal, toasted rice cereal, gluten-free. Now they've actually added gluten back into it. It probably gives it some sort of structure. It's kind of a gummy substance, but not meant to be eaten. And that's what happens when you ferment the grains. It wipes that gluten out and renders the nutrients assimilable in your body. So I'm going to show you how to eat healthy cereal and how to make healthy cereal. Many people would think a cereal like this is really healthy. And you know, when you look at it, it seems like it is, because it says whole grain wheat, cane sugar, natural flavor, and organic. That sounds great, but number one, it hasn't been fermented. And also, when you study this, the way they press these into shapes, they have to actually homogenize, so to speak, or grind this grain into such a processing so they can repress it that it completely denatures it and causes even more problems. You look this one up, and I'll show you some studies and things on this later, but it actually can cause more problems than the grains that that hasn't been done to, which is very surprising. But you know, the grains, ground up wheat just doesn't turn into these shapes. It has to be broken down and then put back under such intense pressure that it creates changes. And what it does is it makes the molecules so small that it then causes even more problems in your body. And oh boy, here we are. We actually have a cartoon cereal. Fruity Pebbles. Of course, we all remember these, but we didn't know what we were eating if we ate this. And every one of these is colored, fruity color. So let's see what we got. Rice, sugar, canola oil, which we know is rapeseed oil that's been processed at extremely high heats and had a chemical process done to it. 1% or less of natural and artificial flavor. Artificial flavor, not good. Red 40 causes cancer. Yellow 6 causes problems and disease. Yellow 5, blue 1. Turmeric now they added to replace a yellow. They're really going out of their way there. Just one thing they added. But then we have a full list of vitamins and minerals added because the rice has been completely denatured. This is just touching on a few things. We're going to go into a lot more. I'm going to tell you what you can actually eat that will make you healthy, that is cereal in the real sense. A grass that has been grown for the seed, and thereby when you grind it and ferment it and then you eat it as breakfast cereal, there's nothing that will be more healthy for you. But these are candy in a box, pretty much all of them, with poisons in them. And that's not just me saying that. Those are studies in every sense on every ingredient in there. You can go through it. The Federal Register or the Code of Federal Regulations actually requires that vitamins be put back into those substances because they've been completely turned into a non-food. So that's right off the top. You know that that's happening. Otherwise, they would not put that in there out of the goodness of their heart. We're going to learn a ton about this stuff. I wanted you to just have I just wanted to touch on these, and there's so many more cereals. If you have any that you want me to take a look at, put them in the comments below and like and subscribe. I'll be back soon, and I look forward to seeing you again.